So does there have to be a lockout tagout procedure for every piece of machine or equipment, or can there just simply be one generalized procedure?
That is the number one most frequently asked question on lockout tagout, so I'm glad somebody asked that. And I'm going to skip over to this. If you can see your screens here, these are the 8 criteria that OSHA requires every piece of equipment to pass in order to not need a procedure. And I know that's a mouthful what I just said. I'll say it in a different way. If you have a piece of machinery that does not meet all 8 criteria here, it has to have a procedure. So you could go about creating your procedures 2 ways. You could do an inventory list of all your equipment, and then you could run every single piece of equipment through these 8 criteria to see if there's any that pass, and then create procedures for those other non-passing equipment that didn't pass these 8 criteria. And then I'll save you some time, and I'll tell you like 95% or up of all your equipment out there, don't just think of it as production, will require those procedures. So here's some examples that often are missed. MIG welders, they have electrical, gas, thermal, and in addition to it could be capacitors or battery backups in them as residual energies. Grinder is often missed. This could be, believe it or not, it could be a $150 grinder, but it could be up to a $70,000 fine if somebody gets an amputation of a finger in this, and OSHA will come and look for that procedure because it has kinetic energy as a secondary source. So when you do have time, review those 8 criteria. It says there could be no potential for residual energy. Kinetic energy is residual. It's also a secondary source to electrical. Oftentimes people say, oh, it's cord and plug, it doesn't need it. That's a fallacy. That is not a criteria for whether or not it needs a procedure. That's a criteria for whether or not you need to apply a lock to it. So do not believe the cord and plug fallacy out there. And this, often overlooked, exhaust fan. It could be small, it could be large. The premise is always the same, electrically powered and kinetic energy, same as the previous piece of equipment. Again, often overlooked, and it's just sitting out there as a citation potential. And this piece of equipment and all like it, portable equipment, is not exempt. It requires a procedure just like the machines that are fixed in your facility. In fork trucks, you have gravity, hydraulic, potential thermal, potential for it to move, in addition to the ignition source, whether it's electric motor, propane, natural gas. So those hopefully will help you avoid some of the common pitfalls that other companies have fallen into.
Okay, great. You just listed out a whole bunch of different types of equipment that needs a procedure. And we had a question here. Can you recommend any methods to comply with the requirement for an annual review of written lockout procedures? And this individual says it can be nearly impossible with thousands of written procedures.
Yeah, the methodology for complying is what we went over right here. I'm going to push this to the audience, back to the slide, where you can actually audit these procedures very easily electronically. Now, the burden is to audit the procedures every year. The fact is, if a procedure isn't audited every year, it could be an inaccurate procedure, and it's going to sit there as a potential accident the next time somebody goes to use it and doesn't check it first. So if your audits can be done up to 85% more efficiently, and it could be done whenever somebody has time because you can audit them electronically, that speeds the entire process up.